Hello, I'm Sarah Gutterman. I'm the CEO of Green Builder Media, and I'd like to welcome you today to our webinar on connected living market trends. We're appreciative of your time, and we're excited about today's webinar. We've got a lot of great content. We are going to leave some time at the end for questions, so if you want to type in questions in the questions section of the GoToMeeting dashboard, GoToWebinar dashboard, we will be sure to, as I said, leave some time at the end to answer them. So I think that we're all here today because we recognize that connected living and smart home technologies is just an exploding market category. The statistics that we're going to show you throughout the presentation today are fairly mind-boggling in terms of the rapid advancement and evolution of the sector, as well as the growth opportunities for building professionals and manufacturers alike. But before I go into the statistics about connected living, I'm going to give you a little bit of context for how we've collected the data that we're going to present. So just to begin, for those of you who are not familiar with Green Builder Media, we are the nation's leading media company focused on green building and sustainable living. We have a variety of business initiatives and divisions, starting, of course, with our media and communications channels. We have a really robust spectrum of online, mobile, digital, social, and print media. Our flagship publication, Green Builder Magazine, recently won Best Trade Publication for the 7th year in a row. And probably not surprisingly, the bulk of our communications is through digital and social and online and email media channels, through which we reach a hybrid trade and consumer audience. So on the trade side, we reach about 200,000 of the most progressive building professionals across the U.S. And then we also reach millions of early adopter and first mover consumers. We also do demonstration projects that we call our Vision House series, as well as live events. And then last but certainly not least, we have Cognition Smart Data. So Cognition Smart Data is our market intelligence and data service offerings. And again, just to kind of give you some context about Cognition, we've been gathering metadata on our leading edge audience since the beginning of 2014, when we developed and launched a proprietary technology platform that tracks the behaviors and engagement patterns and downloads and survey questions and calls to actions information that we generate on our audience. But about 2 years ago, we realized that in order to really be as relevant and meaningful to our clients as we could possibly be, we had to move beyond our own audience and look at the wider world of web and social media content. So we found some former IBM Watson guys to build us another proprietary technology platform that mines web and social media content using contextual filters and parameters that we teach to the tech platform. The platform uses the logic of Watson and artificial intelligence to refine itself, to refine the data and the learnings and the insights that we're able to generate in order to give us a really comprehensive perspective of market trends, sentiment, behavioral patterns, keywords, purchase drivers, and other metrics like that that we can break down by source feeds and by user groups. So Cognition blends these two data sets together, one, as I said, that mines web and social media content, and the other that is generated from really deep vertical data on our leading edge audience. And when we bring those two things together, as I said, we just get a really robust perspective and insights into market trends, market movements, and key market drivers. I'm showing you some dashboards here from Cognition that showcase all of the data that we're collecting. But perhaps the best part of Cognition is that we're able to take that data from our proprietary technology platforms, turn it into insights utilizing the domain expertise that we've been generating for the past 15 years through Green Builder Media in working with a leading edge market, in staying ahead of really key market trends and drivers. And then we're able to turn those insights into meaningful and relevant business intelligence for our clients to help them make more informed business decisions. We then use that intelligence and turn it into custom content generation, content marketing, and marketing campaigns so that we can then deliver on quantifiable results and provide KPIs and a very tangible ROI to our clients, so it becomes this very virtuous cycle. So that is a little bit of context about cognition, what it is and how we utilize it to generate these trends in a meaningful way. So now I'm going to go into some key housing market trends that are related to connected living, but they're just kind of higher level trends that we're tracking, and then we'll go into the connected living trends in just a minute. But I wanted to start with some of these key housing market trends that we are watching through Cognition because they're really driving disruptive change and transformation, kind of exponential transformation within the building sector. And they're really meaningful for anyone, manufacturers, building professionals, even consumers, to understand in order to see where we're heading in the next, 1, 2, 5, 10 years. So we like to start out with pointing out this rapid transformation to net zero energy. We're seeing a tremendous amount of innovation in products, technologies, systems, in the renewables, energy efficiency, water monitoring space, certainly connected living and automation. And then correspondingly, we're also seeing ratcheting codes, regulations, programs, and policies that are all moving our market towards, globally and nationally, towards net zero energy structures. And you can see in some of these numbers that are presented here, that marketplace is exploding with a projected almost $79 billion by 2025 in terms of that global market. And there's just a tremendous amount of activity with respect to demand-side energy management systems and programs, and a lot of elements that are, again, just moving our entire market towards net zero energy. The opportunity here, with specifically respect to connected living, is that as we're shifting more towards net zero energy, that is really requiring and necessitating, in many cases, automation of homes and buildings. And so that connected living market is going to continue to grow as we move towards net zero energy. We're starting to see codes in places like California and New York that are requiring that homes and buildings be designed and built and even retrofitted to be net zero. And again, woven into that are opportunities for connected living, for energy performance, for leak detection and water management, for indoor air quality monitoring, and proactive systems. So this is a big opportunity in many sectors and areas of the building industry. The next key housing market trend that we're watching is water, because water really is the issue of our moment. It is the #1 potential mitigating factor for the building industry, because simply put, if there is no water, there will be no permits. If there's no water, there will be no manufacturing. You get my drift? So clearly water is probably the thing that we need to start solving for in a massive way. We've kind of already solved for energy. We've got super high performance product systems, technologies, renewables have hit price parity and beyond in some markets, but water is really the thing that we need to solve for right now. And again, we're seeing a lot of innovation with respect to product systems, technologies, lots in the leak detection and water monitoring spaces, gray water, certainly low flow faucets and fixtures, atmospheric generators that pull water out of the air for fresh water supply. And we're seeing that corresponding ratcheting of codes and policy, like in the energy space. We're also going to see lots of changes in water pricing that's going to dictate a lot of change in that market as well, and place a lot of new demands on building professionals and manufacturers and perhaps even homeowners alike. We're also seeing just a massive transformation in the realm of health and wellness and an exploding demand for healthy homes. Now, with respect to connected living, this means indoor air quality monitors and sensing, assisted living technology for active adults and aging individuals, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, health trackers, so wearables, monitors, home health care systems. I've mentioned leak detection and water monitoring systems. So there's a lot of connected living technology that specifically addresses this growing demand for healthy homes. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the key target audiences, namely millennials and baby boomers, in a little while. And then another key housing market trend is the valuation metric that is really shifting from first cost to full cost. Consumers, home buyers, really understand that green homes yield a higher ROI with respect to resale value and valuation, with respect to ongoing operating costs. So we're shifting away from the price per square foot metric towards looking at a life cycle cost, looking at operations and maintenance costs, and just looking at that enhanced value of having a greener, intelligent, more resilient and durable home. So let's talk a little bit about market pull and market push, so some of the market forces that are occurring right now to kind of propel this transformation in the built environment. So first of all, consumers are playing a central role in purchasing, and they're actually specifying products up to 70% of the time. And this is interesting because when we first started polling our building professional and our consumer audiences 15 years ago at Green Builder Media, this number was a fraction of what it is today. It was maybe 10 to 15%. And over the years, we've seen that building professionals and consumers are both telling us that that number clearly has grown dramatically over the past, 10 to 15 years. And the other thing that's really important is that the product categories that consumers used to be more involved with in terms of specifying products, again, that used to be maybe appliances, maybe faucets and fixtures, flooring, that has expanded into categories that consumers did not specify for in the past, like insulation and windows and siding and things like that. So absolutely a growth in the consumer participation of product specification in homes. And there are some numbers here that actually I took from some stats that were offered by the National Association of Home Builders, that 50% of consumers want net zero energy homes and are willing to spend up to $9,000 in products that increase the energy efficiency, water conservation, and health of homes. And so clearly there's a new frontier in terms of smart, sustainable products. And then, so that's the market pull. And then when we look at the market push, so building professionals are clearly using sustainability as a differentiator and as a way to enhance value to home buyers and increase their revenues. And specifically within the connected living space, this is pretty interesting. What we're starting to see is that contractors and builders who used to be, let's say, in the audio-visual, the AV or entertainment, home entertainment space, they are they're opening up and expanding their portfolio of services to include a wide spectrum of connected living devices and systems and technologies. And then we're also starting to see a convergence between smart home or contractors that offer smart home related services and solar installations. So smart plus solar is really converging from a kind of an installer and contractor standpoint. And then the last market trend that I just want to point out before we shift into specific connected living information is the labor shortage, because if you're in the building sector and you're not talking about labor shortage issues, you're kind of missing the boat, because it's plaguing the industry. It's true, you know, we read all about the labor shortage issues, and they are real. We talk with builder friends, colleagues, readers, you know, across the nation, across all segments and kind of builder categories, and everyone is struggling with labor issues. So the reason why I bring it up in the context of a connected living webinar is that what we're finding is that manufacturers who are helping building professionals, builders, contractors, et cetera, solve for labor issues by creating products that either have streamlined installation or have a reduced number of people, contractors that actually have to touch that product in that installation and setup process, are creating a compelling purchase driver for those building professionals. The other portion of this is that in the building industry, we have an aging workforce. And in fact, stats show that there are more people retiring on a daily, monthly, annual basis than entering, you know, the younger generations entering into the workforce. And so we've got to find ways to attract millennials and ultimately Gen Z workers. And this is really important in the connected living space because the manufacturers and the building professionals who offer connected living actually have a compelling message for millennials and Gen Zers through smart, sexy technology. Let's be honest, those generations, they love smart, they're used to it, it's what they've grown up with. And so I think more than any other sector in the building industry, connected living technologies are and will continue to be attractive to younger generations and provide you know, a real driver to bring some of those younger folks into the workforce. So now I'm going to switch gears and talk about some of the key connected living trends that we're tracking through Cognition. So clearly, it's a new era of connected living. This is just some intuitive information. You know, smart home technologies are offering homeowners new levels of convenience, efficiency, comfort, independence, and security. The way that we like to talk about it at Green Builder Media is that we've shifted from what we call a mindless home, which is kind of disparate devices that have separate functionalities that homeowners might buy off the shelf, and then install, and they have separate apps, and they have to control all of these things through their phone with separate apps. We're shifting from the mindless home to the mindful home, and that's kind of where we are, where most homes are right now, where those devices may be integrated by voice control, so let's say Alexa or Google Home. And so maybe there's one app that can control all of them, and again, you can use your voice. But now we're moving into the intuitive home era, where we have either a central hub that connects not just the devices, but devices with mechanical systems, HVAC, lighting, water heating, you know, leak detection and water monitoring systems, IAQ systems, even connecting to like windows. If an IAQ monitor senses toxins in the home and can kick on a vent fan and open windows for fresh air exchange. And so we're seeing much more integration of not, again, only devices, but devices with mechanical systems and other products and technologies in the home. But also what that intuitive home brings is it learns our behaviors so that our homes can actually respond accordingly and optimize resource use, optimize comfort, optimize convenience, and respond according to our own behaviors and preferences, taking the human error out of home performance and making our lives more cost-effective, convenient, and sustainable. I mentioned earlier some of the stats around connected living are pretty mind-boggling, and here are some of them. Today, according to Cognition Smart Data surveys, nearly 40% of Americans currently use smart technology in their homes, and that number bumps up to 65% of homeowners that either use smart devices in their home or plan to purchase one this year. Americans will spend $90 billion on smart home devices by 2030. Once a homeowner purchases one smart home device, they're fairly addictive, so they're 70% likely to purchase another one. And then 60% of home buyers say that they will pay more for a smart home. So clearly in demand, and these numbers are all growing. None of these numbers are shrinking. And if you think about, these numbers were 0 a couple of years ago, and now they're, in the 40 to 70 range. That is explosive growth, worth paying attention to. So a couple key audience segments within the connected living space. First is millennials. Again, kind of intuitive, but very, very real. So at this point, millennials are in the full home buying phase, right? So the oldest millennials are 40. I think a lot of us think about millennials and we think about, folks in their 20s, but they're absolutely in home buying and family raising phase. So they comprise of 37% of the housing market, and you can see these numbers here. 74% of millennials plan to buy a home in the next 5 years. 43% are looking specifically for a smart home, and nearly half of them already own at least one smart home device. Millennials, the group, the generation is comprised of about 83 million Americans. So again, substantial market with tons of opportunity. Smart is in their DNA. The other key market segment that we are tracking very closely is active adults. 46 million people are age 65 and older, and that's projected to grow to about 67 million by 2050. And what we're seeing is that these active adults, as they're growing, they want to age in place. They want to stay in their homes for as long as they can. They don't want to go to assisted living facilities. And so they are adopting, and their Gen X children are adopting and working with their parents to purchase and implement what we're calling assisted living technologies. So motion sensors that detect if those active adults or aging individuals are getting up and moving around, if they're opening their refrigerators, if they're flushing their toilets and turning on their faucets. And if they're not, these assisted living technologies are notifying doctors or children of those aging adults, and they're enabling, again, these active adults to age in place, to stay in their homes for longer. And it's really resulting in a positive cost-benefit analysis, because if you look at the investment in technology to keep someone in their home for longer, it's actually on a net basis less expensive than what you'd have to pay on a monthly basis to put that same individual into an assisted living facility. I mentioned, assisted living technology. There's a whole bunch of applications that we're tracking and looking at because this is such a growing sector. Everything from just passive monitoring to alerts, fall detection that come with fall detection, health monitors certainly, et cetera. And we actually have a whole issue that we did on this of Green Builder Magazine. So if you're interested in learning more about assisted living technology, I'll put my email address up at the end of this webinar, and I can send you a link to the issue of Green Builder Magazine so you can read about it. It's really pretty interesting stuff and pretty extraordinary technology that is being developed right now by a variety of companies. One example that we like to mention is the Samsung Smart Things Hub connects with kind of a overlying software called Billy, and they're doing some pretty great things in that assisted living space. In terms of market drivers, one of the key market drivers that we're watching, it's a growing trend, is convenience. 57% of Americans say that having smart products in their house save them about half an hour per day. So when you add that up on an annual basis, that's about a week and a half. And we're all so busy, and that is very precious time. So we're watching convenience as a key market driver. But clearly, it's not the only market driver, and so now I'm going to get into some very specific statistics. This chart, actually, we took from the American Association of Realtors. All the rest of the data you're about to see is from Cognition. But I like this one just to kind of set things up to show current smart home applications in homes. So there's about 22 million homes across the country that have smart home security, locks, sensors, cameras, almost just about 20 million that have smart thermostats and energy-related smart home technologies. And then you can see the rest there in terms of lighting. Audio is really kind of AV and entertainment, ceiling fans, et cetera. Water is right now at about 10 million homes, but that's, again, as I keep coming back to, leak detection, water monitoring, and then smart irrigation systems. That is really an exploding category and is going to really reach, bigger numbers over the course of the next couple of years. So through Cognition, we look at and we measure use cases, smart home and connected living use cases. And there's a lot of words on this particular chart, but some of the use cases that we're tracking that are most desirable across all consumer audience segments. Certainly security, I mentioned security. So folks are looking for connected living solutions that ensure the security of their data, protecting against hackers and cyber threats. That's actually the number1 use case. I'm going to talk a little bit about security some more in a minute because I really call it the elephant in the room. I'll go into more depth about what that is, why it's so important, and how to solve for it in a minute. But then the next use case down, again, related to security, different kind of security. My smart home senses fires and other dangers in the home and responds accordingly. We're really seeing a very quickly growing interest in proactive demand response connected living systems so that these devices and monitors and sensors in the home aren't just monitoring for things. So they're not just telling a homeowner that they have bad indoor air quality because toxins are high or CO2 is high or they brought something in with high VOCs. But the homeowners want that streamlined and automated proactive activity on the back end so that the smart home system actually takes action, right? It's the easy button and responds accordingly. Again, the third use case tied to security, smart home system protects my family by, with intruder alerts. Indoor air quality is the fourth use case of kind of highest desirability. Again, moving down, we're looking at more of those proactive diagnostics, telling homeowners when electrical or mechanical systems may have, problems and are about to malfunction. Integration with solar systems, to streamline energy production, storage, monitoring, and usage within the home. So again, that smart plus solar streamlined activity is growing in terms of interest and demand. And then I've mentioned leak detection as well. So now we're looking at the most desirable smart home categories that we're tracking through Cognition. Again, security is definitely 1, 2, and 3. Smart thermostats, indoor air quality, solar, camera, and sensors and lighting. When we look at why homeowners are purchasing smart home devices and those purchase drivers, number 1, it's to improve energy efficiency. 2, it's to address security concerns. And I know this is a little bit reverse of what we just talked about in terms of desirable categories, but this data is the data, and I'm just the messenger here. Allowing remote check-in, so allowing homeowners to check on their home while they're away, their home or their family, saving money, of course, enhancing comfort, and then improving health and wellness. We ask consumers across all audience segments how they feel about connected living. So for the most part, folks feel good about smart home technology and connected living. They feel like it adds convenience, makes their home safer. But there's still a good group there that slice in the purple that are still, a little, the verdict is still out. Not quite sure what to think of this connected living and smart home technology. Some folks are neutral, and then, the yellow slice there are folks that are skeptical, but open to be convinced. We did have one of the options here as I hate it and I'm mad as hell. Fortunately, really, we didn't get any meaningful responses that are, that represented folks in that category. So in general, the bulk of consumers across all audience segments feel good about connected living and smart home technology. With that said, there are some frustrations. And it's really around connectivity and integration. So devices don't connect with a central hub, or there are glitches. There's some frustrations around batteries, not intuitive, difficult to use, doesn't work as advertised. So, for the most part, the bulk of the frustrations are around the lack of integration of different products and systems and devices, and also the fact that there is no uniform standard or protocol. So these different devices may use different connection points, and so therefore they can't integrate. One might be Wi-Fi, and the other, may require a different, again, point of connection. So the largest frustration right now is just the fact that we are still in, the fairly nascent early phases of smart home and connected living. And so we're going to see a lot more in terms of integration. I'll talk more about that in a minute, in terms of the different devices, so that there's less frustration in terms of setup and ongoing use of these devices. I mentioned the elephant in the room, which is security. So you can see the smallest blue slice here in this pie represents consumers across all audience segments that believe that their smart home data is protected. The purple represents consumers who feel that their smart home data is not protected, and then the yellow is I don't know. But there is absolutely, a high level of concern amongst consumers in all audience segments around, sharing about privacy and security. Many don't want to share their behavioral patterns, their metadata. They're worried that Alexa is listening to them. They are frustrated with that performance and integration piece. And if you think about it, in general, our communications, our home communication networks were originally built to hook up one, maybe two personal computers. Now, think about how many devices our home networks are required to support. Multiple PCs, laptops, tablets, and then all of the smart home devices. And so our home networks actually have not had as much technological advancements as the smart home device and the personal computing space. It just hasn't grown as quickly, as the advancements in the smart home device space. So there's some incompatibility and just, general lack of performance elements there with just our home networks. There's also frustration that we're seeing in consumer audiences with the difference between how devices are advertised to perform versus how they actually perform. And some of this really comes down to if a consumer is a DIYer and they want to go buy devices off the shelf and try to hook them together versus bringing in an integrator. if they bring in an integrator or if a builder actually kind of pre-installs those smart home devices, they're generally going to be more robust and functional than if the homeowner installs them on one's own. And so we're seeing some frustration around that performance, with the security element in those DIY versus integrator installed systems. And then something that is also a pretty big trend in the security related space is, let's say, is in the secondary home market. Let's say a homeowner sets up a smart home system and sells that home. Believe it or not, one of the biggest problems that home buyers of existing homes are experiencing today is they don't know how to reset the whole system. They don't know passwords. They don't know, how to reset it. And so there's actually a big problem right now when new buyers, when home buyers of existing homes come in and try to navigate around smart home systems. They just don't really know how to reset those systems. We track the number of devices in homes. You can see the biggest portion of this pie is 1 to 5 devices in the home. You can see, the other kind of slices representing the different numbers of devices. The 15 plus devices in homes, that's actually a growing slice of this pie. Actually, and again, when you think about the fact that a handful of years ago, there was no pie, right? All of these numbers were 0, or maybe, 1 to 5 represented the whole pie. The growth in these numbers is pretty incredible. When we look at just purchase drivers across web and social media, so what people are talking about with respect to connected living and why they're buying connected living technologies, again, security, no surprise, that's number 1. We've got energy efficiency, sustainability, comfort, wellness, ease of use, and warranty all up there as top purchase drivers. But for those manufacturers and building professionals that are wanting to kind of get deeper and enhance their messaging in the connected living space, security is a good drum to beat because consumers are highly concerned about it. They don't always understand it. And then, of course, tying messaging as much as possible into energy efficiency, into sustainability in general, which can be reduced resource use, enhanced indoor air quality. There's lots of elements of that sustainability message. And then the wellness number, again, that one is growing quickly. So that has to do with health and indoor air quality. Again, through Cognition, we can track different audience segments. DIY consumers are the most active in pretty much all segments across web and social media, but particularly with respect to talking about connected living. So for manufacturers that are looking for enhanced earned PR and just elevation of their message, DIY consumers are a good segment to target. You can see, kind of trending mentions over time for on the upper right, the purchase drivers, and then down below for just some of the leading brands in the connected living space. When we look at kind of keywords and queries, here's a list of some of the most frequently referenced keywords in the connected living and smart home space. And then on the right-hand side, Google Home and Amazon Alexa and Echo are by far the most frequently referenced brands. And then after that, we've got Nest, Samsung, and Vivint, and then Apple actually falls in the 3rd category of most commonly referenced brands. We can also break out these keywords and queries and activity by geography. So I just took some of the keywords: home automation, smart home device, and you can see the darker the blue color, the more often that keyword is utilized and the more often we're tracking those on web and social media. And as kind of we're looking at these connected living must-haves, I keep coming back to security, and that's data security, protection against hackers and cyber threats. It's also the proactive elements, as I mentioned when I was talking about use cases in terms of sensing dangers in the home, alerting homeowners, and then responding accordingly. Health and wellness, talked about indoor air quality, but it's not just limited to indoor air quality. There's now some really great technologies from companies like Lutron and others that, for example, emphasize other elements of health and wellness like circadian lighting. So lighting that changes to kind of adapt to time of day. And so it's just more natural and frankly easier on on our bodies to respond to that type of lighting. And then there's other similar types of behavioral modification elements that are being included in the connected living spaces, whether that's that pertain to our different kind of sensory experience. So sound, smells, I mentioned lighting in terms of visuals, et cetera. Leak detection, of course, but then I'll come back again. Measurement really isn't enough anymore, right? So sensors and monitors. Homeowners are really demanding that seamless intelligence to have that proactive response. So in terms of connected living innovations that we're seeing, so trends on the rise, ambient or distributed computing is one that we're starting to see a lot of explosive growth. So what this means is instead of having all of the intelligence embedded into a computer or a phone, we're actually starting to see sensors and monitors being built into everything around us in the home that all can communicate with each other. So again, rather than having to utilize your phone to interact with an app that then controls the different devices and systems in your home, you can, interact with many different devices or elements of your home to do pretty much anything that your phone does. Of course, we're continuing to see advances in machine learning and AI. Voice activation, of course, is continuing to expand, but we're also seeing face recognition, even things like hand movements that may replace voice activation in the future. We're seeing a lot of movement in the demand side energy management and peak load shifting, geolocation services. So this isn't just geo-tracking, which means, like, for example, if a homeowner is on her way home and the home can sense when her vehicle is a mile away and opens the garage and turns on the lights. That's certainly one application, but we're also seeing more with respect to geolocation inside of a home itself or even a building, where if occupants are in the living room watching a movie and there's no movement in the other rooms, the home will actually turn off the lights and turn down the heat and respond accordingly to save energy and just kind of optimize resource use in general within the home itself. I'm going to move on to the next frontier. So these are really cutting edge concepts and products and technologies that aren't quite in the market yet, but they're just getting there. So the innovations, the slide I just talked about, those are generally speaking in the market in a variety of different applications, whereas some of the things that we're seeing just, again, on the very leading edge, really have as much to do with that connectivity layer that creates the integration of all devices that I mentioned earlier, so that it doesn't really matter if a device is created to connect to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or some other network protocol. We're now starting to see a layer sit between the device and those connectivity points so that it's very seamless. We're going to continue to see a lot of standardization with respect to those protocols, so that everything in a smart home ecosystem can connect together. And then we've mentioned the intuitive home, the proactive demand response homes. These are all part of intelligent systems that processes all kinds of activity and behaviors in the home and actually provides proper output. So the geolocation services that I just mentioned is a good example of this, where, you know, if a home senses that there's just no activity in certain areas, it will proactively turn off lights, close windows, turn down the HVAC, do whatever it's kind of programmed to do according to, let's say, the weather and the temperature or the time of day. So we're going to start seeing a lot more intelligence built into devices and systems. To address some of the security concerns, we're going to start seeing more local data processing actually on the smart home level as opposed to the cloud level. And this, again, is in direct response to privacy concerns. And then the other thing that we think is pretty interesting is a switch from kind of personal computing, so one person controls one computer or one device, to communal computing. So, for example, if I'm in the living room and I'm listening to my music and my husband walks in and the home can sense that he walks in, then all of a sudden his playlist is added to whatever music I'm listening to, or maybe his playlist trumps my playlist because I'd rather he be happy listening to his music than my music because he doesn't like my music. So, you know, things like that. And again, just further simplification and unification so that there's a more streamlined experience for the home buyer or homeowner. So, you know, just to conclude with the smart connected living trends, you know, smart adds value. There's a huge opportunity here, just a whole new value to homeowners, an exploding market demand, and a watershed business opportunity for building professionals and manufacturers alike to capitalize on. But, you know, kind of word of advice, maybe unsolicited advice, is this space is evolving quickly and you got to run fast to stay ahead of the pack. But again, just to go back to that workforce issue that a lot of building professionals and even manufacturers are struggling with, fortunately, this is a sexy and quickly growing space that does have the ability to attract some of those younger generations. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes just to finish up with a few more words about cognition, and then I'll open it up to questions. As you can see, there's a lot of really powerful data that we generate through cognition. But this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we showed you today. Where cognition really shines is when we can work directly with our clients to generate custom data based on that client's data and intelligence needs. And then we can translate that data into actionable and meaningful business intelligence, and then create custom content, content marketing, and business recommendations using our very unique domain expertise to then create powerful and impactful marketing campaigns, strategic business ideas, and to reach our audience of influencers. Cognition has a really unique kind of position in the industry because we synthesize market data and insights, social listening, the ability to track market trends, and then also kind of services that are normally provided, say, by consultants or agencies that really do a deep dive into clients' businesses to help them create better, more informed, strategic business decisions. So we synthesize all those things through cognition and provide a really comprehensive service. So we're able then to empower our clients to really just, again, make better business decisions and influence audience. audiences. And our clients utilize Cognition for a variety of applications, ranging from they're developing marketing campaigns, maybe they're about to launch a new product, or maybe they're in product development. They are maybe looking at audience segmentation or brand positioning and comparison. Maybe they're looking at ways to increase their sales efficacy. And so through Cognition, we're really able to synthesize a lot of different data sources and technology platforms that our clients are utilizing into one really streamlined and elegant solution, and then actually provide not just the data, but the insights and the meaningful business intelligence. With respect to kind of spend, we're able to help clients save a lot of money on disparate technology solutions, as well as actually just kind of the human factor. We're able to really help streamline kind of human processes as well, and save a lot of money and optimize budgets. So we'd love to talk with you about how you can utilize Cognition to streamline your businesses and improve your business decisions. With respect to connected living, there's just, as you can probably tell, a wide spectrum of data that we're generating that we can then apply, again, whether that is understanding market trends, key audience segments, looking at product enhancements or product positioning or brand comparison. Again, lots of different things that we can do specifically within the connected living space, leveraging the data that we have, perhaps generating new custom data for you, and then turning that into something that's very meaningful for your business. So I've got my email address up on here. Some of you may work with Craig or Scott or John. Feel free to reach out to them as well. We'd love to give you a demo and kind of show you the expansiveness of Cognition. So with that, I'm going to take some questions. So again, I encourage you, please, to chat in questions in that question section of the GoToWebinar dashboard. I'm just going to give, I see some folks are writing. I'm going to give you a second just to list some of those questions. All right, so I've got a question here from Jason. And Jason is asking about the key audience segments, millennials and active adults. Where do we see the most potential for growth in those segments? So great question, because again, those are just two audience segments that are absolutely ripe for any manufacturer or building professional to reach with a connected living message. Millennials, because it's in their DNA, it is their way of life. And frankly, by not offering a home that has a connected living element to it, I think that building professionals would really be missing out. So I think there, it's absolutely just open and comprehensive in terms of the opportunity there. So it's about convenience, it's about energy efficiency, it's about saving money, it's about security, all the things that we talked about. Specifically with respect to active adults, we are looking at those specific assisted living technologies. And if you want to shoot me an email at the end or after this webinar, I can send you a link to the issue of Green Builder magazine that we put out on assisted living technologies. So that's it. I don't see any other questions. And I thank you all so much for your time. We encourage you to reach out to us to schedule a Cognition demo so that we can show you how you can unleash the power of Cognition. And take care and have a great day.